Up next, we are chatting to the football pod's Tommy Rooney. He's going to be picking his key matchups ahead of this weekend's All-Ireland quarter-finals. But there was a message from the news round and Mick McCarthy last night. Have a look.
These teams playing each other.
Yeah.
Well, we've got it this Sunday, and I don't think that there's that level of excitement for this, because I don't think, like, it's funny, if Mayo win this Sunday, there's a clip from the football pod with Paddy and James that will be played over and over again. I'll probably be the one playing it here, but it's like, Tommy's like, Kerry have a chance, or they may have a chance. No, absolutely none whatsoever. And both of them double down. They were given 3 or 4 chances to kind of say maybe or it could if this happened or whatever, and they're just like, no chance whatsoever. And I think that's the feeling everybody has. I think there's like, we're used to Mayo miracles and them finding it where we don't think it's there.
Yeah.
But I feel like any logic in you thinks that even for them it's going to be a step too far this
When
time.
has logic ever applied to Mayo?
We don't know anything about Kerry because they haven't played anyone yet.
When has logic ever applied to Mayo?
It never has, but that's what I'm saying, that even with the even with the weight that you apply to to Mayo when you're talking about logic, still some has to come.
There's a great moment in this week's football pod where Paddy Andrews is clearly the most confident of the 3 people on the podcast in the outcome this weekend. Very, very certain that Kerry are going to beat Mayo. And Tommy Rooney, moderating it, jumps in and says, are Kerry overconfident here? Despite the fact that it's the Dublin man who is building Kerry up this weekend more than anybody else. Tommy Rooney, a very good morning to you.
Morning on. Hello, Shane. How you doing, boys?
Why is everybody writing Mayo off? What is going on? Why have we forgotten that Mayo are Mayo?
I don't know, and I do know that you're doing great work behind the scenes to try and address that. I know that you've been chipping away at this overconfidence, this exuberance of, being sure that there's going to be a Dublin Kerry semi-final. I don't know, because I just have a sneaky feeling that this Mayo team are Mayo. Like, they have stuttered through the qualifiers. They're in Croke Park again, and they're going to be good to go when they're going to raise their levels to play Kerry. And I just think we're going to see a little bit more of what we saw in Tralee, that rainy night in Tralee in March, than we saw in the league final a few weeks later.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that, to be honest. I think that the league, I think you can make a case fair enough for Kerry to win and win well if you want, but basically the league final maybe isn't the soundest way to build that argument. That's just my gripe this week. The league final is not real.
No.
When you're
I think Andy said it to you in that interview you had with him 2 weeks ago, Andy Moore, and the speed was missing in the Mayo defence the last time, and that just, like, the speed in the Mayo defence helps them defend, but it's also their main form of attack, so that would probably explain the huge gulf in a lot of ways.
Okay, so we are going to go through some of the key matchups this weekend. Tommy, where do you want to start?
Well, I'm going to start with the one matchup that I'm sure is going to happen on, and that is Galway Sean Kelly taking Rian O'Neill. And it is one of a couple of key areas, battle areas, that's going to take place in this game on Sunday. It is going to be an absolutely cracking match. I really hope it lives up to the expectation, because we've got 2 teams here that are just that can be very exciting to watch. They have very exciting players. I think Kelly is made for Rian O'Neill. I think Rian O'Neill had way too much freedom against Donegal. Brendan McCall had done a really good job on him in the league, and O'Neill just, I don't know whether he had a chip on his shoulder, because a few people have been questioning whether or not he'd had a proper championship performance yet. They've been saying he hasn't scored enough from playing championship. Well, he delivered. 1-7 the last day against Donegal, kicked 5 points from play. I think Rian O'Neill is going to love playing in Croke Park. He's a rock star. But Sean Kelly is the beating heart of that Galway team. As much, as important and as magical as Shane Walsh is, Sean Kelly provides the opposite on the far end of it all. So I think Kelly will be able to mix it up from going forward. I think that he's a match physically for him. I think athletically he's a match for him. And, in terms of, speaking of a few Galway friends this week, in terms of attitude and application, he will absolutely love this job this week as well.
Kevin Walsh was suggesting they go zonal this weekend.
I think there's probably going to be a mixture of that too, but I don't think you can leave Rian O'Neill in the zone. Like, I would absolutely listen to what Kevin Walsh is saying, but I don't think you leave Rian O'Neill in the zone.
Like, Tommy, knowing what to do with Rian O'Neill is one thing, but lumping long balls in as well on that key goalkeeper, like Conor Gleeson, the Dunmore man, has been iffy in some of the games for Galway. Probably one of their weaker points. Like, you think back to Ethan Rafferty's performance against Donegal the second day out, excellent. But that opening day against Donegal, there were weaknesses there. And listening to Tony Scullion and Enda Gormley and Brendan Devaney last night up in Mahara, like they spoke about how the goalkeeping position we know is so massive in Gaelic football. But I feel like in this game, with all the focus and talk there has been around Ethan Rafferty and what he brings out the pitch as well, and on Conor Gleeson, that the goalkeeping position in this game could be a massive factor here as well.
Big time, Shane. Yeah. I do think both teams are going to employ presses at various stages. I don't think any of them are as good as Dublin, Mayo and Kerry at employing presses, because they can absolutely destroy you with a press. Like, all you need is one kick out to go wrong and it's a goal against you, and it can absolutely rattle you. Look what happened to Donegal with Patton's 2 kickouts. You know, it wasn't all Patton's fault, but the whole game changed in that 3 or 4 minute spell. So kickouts are going to be massive. But like, on the flip side, I have no idea what Armagh are going to do with Shane Walsh. Maybe they're going to do what Kevin Walsh said and go zonal and maybe double up or put 2 people on him. But the matchup that I'm sure is going to happen, and it's going to be one well worth watching, is Kelly on Rian O'Neill.
One of the things that we need to factor in, lads, for Sunday is that Sunday could be an absolute washout. Like, the conditions are not going to be good. This is not going to be summer football. When you talk about Kerry Mayo in the league in Tralee, that might actually be the real sort of thing to look towards, because it could be similar enough conditions. We've seen games in the rain famously in a quarter-final stage as well. So that could be another factor that will, I guess, inform some of our predictions. So that's your Armagh Galway matchup, Tommy.
Yes.
Where's your next one?
My next one is David Clifford. Now, let's not get into the argument or the speculation of whether he's going to start or not. If he starts, what are Mayo going to do with him? Brady yesterday was saying Keegan.
Yeah. And the sweeper, it sounded like.
Keegan on a sweeper. I think I go for a Hora and a sweeper.
A Hora and a sweeper, okay.
I think I'd put a Hora in there again.
You wouldn't do that to a Hora. Per Padraig, you can't do that to him again. He's already had the worst day of his life in the league final.
I don't know, Shane. I think he'd love that. I think there's only so much you can do with David Clifford. I really do. I think, we've mentioned it all before. He had one of the all-time great semi-final performances against Ronan McNamee. And McNamee did a brilliant job on him. McNamee and the Tyrone defence. Clifford still kicks 8 points. And, probably would have won that game for Kerry if he hadn't been given a hospital pass that Morgan ended up cleaning him out of it and he went off injured. I think they'll stick a Hora on him, because you want Keegan going forward and kicking points. You want, Mullen breaking forward. I think Mullen's a match for Shawnee O'Shea. But I just think Clifford, regardless if he's 75%, 80%, 100%, 110% ready to go, you just got to have a plan for him. And I think putting Padraig Horan on him, making sure he doesn't score a goal, I think that is the best thing that Mayo can do. And I think it's obviously doubling up. I think they're going to play an extra man that's going to drop and facilitate their wing backs to attack. So I think we might see James O'Donoghue suggested Stephen Cohen at 12, Aidan O'Shea at 11, and the 2 of them dropping. I don't know if they can do both of those. I think Gavin White has to be stopped. Brian O'Bugly has to be stopped. So, I think we'll have one lad dropping. So I think Aidan O'Shea could end up in the full forward line and Cohen could end up in the half forward line. But that's the key matchup. I just thought it's hard to know what they're going to do. Keegan, it's a good shout. I'm sure he'd take on the task and he'd do it exceptionally well. But I just think put a Hora on him and free Keegan up a little bit on the other side.
Anything else that's sticking out matchups wise, Tommy, this weekend?
I think Derry Clare is going to be a really, really interesting game. And I think I tried to make the case on the pod. The lads didn't necessarily agree with me. That I think not that Derry are going to choke in Croke Park, so don't quote me on that. And do remember that I called Derry to beat Tyrone. I do think it's a different story playing in Croke Park, Championship football in Croke Park. Clare have it in the bones. That's going to be a help for them. Like, Chris McKaig and Brendan Rodgers have done a sensational job on every single one of the opposition's best forwards the last 2 days out. So naturally you'd be expecting McKaig to take Sexton and Rodgers to take Cleary. I think that Rodgers-Cleary battle is going to be huge. Owen Cleary has been essentially Clare's marquee forward for the last couple of years. I don't think we've seen the best from him this year, and we might see a breakout performance in Croker on Sunday. I think this game is going to be tight, tetchy, going to go down to the wire. I think Cleary Rodgers is going to swing it. We
will get your quick pick predictions tomorrow as well. Just quickly on Footballer of the Year, Tommy. Where are you betting right now if you're looking at the Footballer of the Year stakes and you look at this quarter-final draw, which is a little bit lopsided?
I'm not going to bet it, so I'll put it to you that way. But we were having a chat yesterday on, and you made the point of where O'Neill and Walsh are in the odds. And I think you got to be looking at one of them, because one of those lads are going to inspire their team to an All-Ireland final. And then it's about how they perform in that All-Ireland final. And I think if Rian O'Neill or Shane Walsh is going up against a Dublin defence or a Kerry defence, I still think they're playing well regardless if their team wins or not. So I think that's a good shout. It's hard to look beyond Conor Callan as well, and that's the other interesting thing this weekend. I really think Cork and Croke Park, as much as Derry are going to find it difficult, I think Cork are going to find it very, very difficult in Croke Park. And what they do with Conor Callan is going to be fascinating, because by all accounts, Cork have done a really good job on David Clifford whenever they've needed to. But Sean Meehan, who marked him in 21, there's talk that he might be back in the 26. Cork's co-captain, done with a hamstring injury. Kevin Flahav did really well in Parky Rin. He's out injured. So I don't know whether they double up with Powter and someone else on Con this weekend, but that's going to be really interesting to watch too. It's hard to look beyond Con being the banker for Footballer of the Year. What do you reckon?
Well, David Clifford's still favoured at 5-2, but obviously there's so many question marks about whether or not he plays. There are a maximum of 3 games left. So if you're missing a game against Mayo, and there's a chance that you lose that game as well, I'm not sure that that's actually such a sure thing anymore. Like I think we did make this point last week, is that once that draw came out, Rian O'Neill and Shane Walsh looked very, very good on the non-Kerry Dublin Mayo side of the draw. Because there's a good chance to get to the final, and we have seen over the last couple of years that losing finalists have picked up the gong, like whether it's Lee Keegan or Andy Moore and Austin Gleeson in the hurling. But I just wonder this year, if Dublin go all the way, will the people who vote for the All-Stars be rejuvenated by Dublin again, and it'll feel exciting to give it to one of the Dubs? We kind of got into a stasis there for a while, where it was like Cluxton didn't even pick up All-Stars because their excellence was just boring, and it felt like they weren't overachieving in any way, even though they possibly were, and there were no awards handed out for what Dublin did, which is kind of bonkers when you look back at it. Whereas I think there will be awards handed out if Dublin win the All-Ireland this year, and I think that'll include the Footballer of the Year. I think Kerry, if they win an All-Ireland, will take a Footballer of the Year with them, and Mayo will unquestionably win a Footballer of the Year if they win the All-Ireland, because they will probably get 15 All-Stars if they win the All-Irelands, if they've managed to pick up 2 Footballers of the Year while losing All-Irelands.
I won't say rightly so, but they'll probably get 10. We are ruling out Derry now. So if Derry were to get to an All-Ireland final, if Derry were to get by Clare, if Derry were to get to through an Armagh,
that's harder to call, isn't it?
Well, I think Brendan Rodgers is probably going to be the key man there. Rodgers, the job he did on Murphy in
it was all McKinless up until the final, though. McKinless was the guy who was
McKinless the first day was absolutely sensational. So you have a point. It is hard to call, but I think Rodgers, if they do get there, Rodgers is going to be key all the way through.
Tommy, it's an excellent football pod this week. Congratulations on that. Tommy Rooney and Paddy Andrews talking up Kerry this week, as James Donahue tries to talk them off that mountain.
In fairness, I'm the only one doing your work, Owen. I've been talking up Mayo for the last couple of weeks. I do think that they're going to give them a rattle. I think it's going to be good for Kerry. Yara and all that.
Tommy Rooney, good stuff.
Slán.